The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Good morning and welcome to Human Rights and Justice for All. I'm your host, Greg Malone, and I'm glad you're here with me today, joining me for this message. We have several different topics I'm going to be discussing as usual. I'd like to go through what my show is all about. The show, Human Rights and Justice for All, it means just that. There are human rights that everyone has that are also listed in our Declaration of Independence. However, my show is not based on the Declaration of Independence. It is based on the knowledge and truth of God and through His Son, Jesus Christ. So that is what my show is all about. And who I am? I'm just a guy. I'm a beggar giving another beggar a piece of bread. And what that means is that I really have nothing or possess nothing. And I'm giving you what I have, which is a piece of bread, that piece of bread being Jesus Christ. And I'm giving that to you. You're a beggar because you own nothing and possess nothing. And you might say, what do you mean I don't own anything? I don't possess anything. From what I understand with God's teachings, we don't own anything because everything we have comes from God. And it's all His, 100%. So I take that to heart and I have that in mind. So I'd just like to share a few other things with you, some housekeeping information. You can call in on the show at 561-623-9429. Again, that number is 561-623-9429. My email is humanrightsandjusticeforall@gmail.com. No, that's a mouthful, but just spell it like it sounds, human rights and justice for all @gmail.com. You can also get me on Twitter at RightsJustice, Rights and Justice being capitalized. I'd also like to say something about this show. The highest goal of my show is love. The love of God first and the love of my fellow man second. The basis of all my reasoning is that truth is absolute. When something is true, nothing can be said or done that can change that truth. It is what it is. Also, this show is about reminding people about things which they leave undone. We will be judged one day not only by what we do, but by what we don't do. And that is doing what Christ commanded us to do, in that we need to feed the hungry, we need to visit the sick and in the imprisoned, we need to clothe the naked, we need to, do the things that He's commanded and minister to our brothers and sisters who are everyone in the world. I don't care what race, creed, color, nationality, economic condition that you are in. We are to love everyone. That's from Donald Trump on down to Mother Teresa or anybody that would be of a lowly position and a lowly mind. One neat thing about Mother Teresa is she's one of the greatest ladies that ever lived, but she was so humble. It was a pretty neat thing to watch her in her life. I realize today that there are people that are going through very dark and difficult times. And, it's heartbreaking when we see our friends and loved ones go through very hard times. And I'd just like to give a shout out today to Pastor Gail. And I know she's going through a very difficult and dark time. Many of you that listen to this program know who I'm speaking about. And I'd just like to say to her as a word of encouragement, cast your cares on Him, and the Him being Jesus Christ, because He cares for you. Just cast every care and worry, and this is not only for Pastor Gail, this is for everybody out there. Throw your cares upon God and because he cares upon you. And just that's my shout out for the day, just to give some encouragement to Pastor Gail. Okay, in addition, I'd like to mention something, a quote from a movie I saw one time. And this movie was Men in Black. You might say, wow, that's a pretty profound movie. It was kind of a bunch of silliness, but one of the lines in the movie really struck me. Tommy Lee Jones, I think his person on the show he was playing was Agent K. And it was he was talking about all the aliens on the Earth and the different groups that he was showing the other agent, Jay, who was played by Will Smith. And he's talking to him and talking about the aliens. And he said, one quote, he said, among some aliens, human thought is seen as a disease. Well, ever since I've heard that quote from Tommy Lee Jones in that movie, I don't know who wrote it, who the writer of the movie was, but it struck me. I'm like, wow, because there's a verse in the Bible that talks about human rights being somewhat like a human, or human thought being something like a human, like a disease. If you look at James chapter 3:15, actually verses 14 and a little bit before that, it talks about, correct wisdom. And then it talks about human wisdom. And it says in James 3:15, this wisdom descendeth not from above, or doesn't come down from God, but it is earthly, sensual, and devilish. So human thought is mentioned by God as being earthly, sensual, meaning earthly is not from above. It's just human reasoning here on the earth. It's sensual. It's based on our five senses and our desires. And it is devilish because it's not godly thought processes. There are doctrines of devils that are out there on the earth today that people are listening to. Like some of them are not to marry or give your children or daughters in marriage. That's a doctrine of devils, and that's going right on in our society today. So we need to be careful of those things and make sure that we keep ourselves free from those. My show also today is on joy. I'm changing up the show format a little bit. The show started to become a little bit dark in my mind, and I don't want, what I say to be dark. I want it to be uplifting, and I want it to be beneficial and life-affirming and life-giving. The only thing about that is, within a balance, I also want to share with you things that are happening out in our world today where people are being abused, people are being hurt, people are being taken advantage of, and draw attention to those issues so that we can do something about them. It's not just that I just want to share these stories because that might make you want to listen to the show. I want to share these stories so that people will try to help, will reach out, will look for needs. And I'll get into some more of that a little bit later on. Let me read you another verse from Psalm 5:11. Now, this is a really nice verse because it says, but let all those that put their trust in God rejoice. Let them shout for joy because you defend them. You have a defender today, and that is God. And let them that love your name be joyful in you. That's a great verse, and that we should be glad in Him. Here's another great verse. This is one I really love, and I thought it was very appropriate for the show. Psalms 35:27 says, let them shout for joy and be glad who favor my righteous cause. Now, that's an interesting phrase there. Let them rejoice and be glad who favor my righteous cause. Now, this is speaking about the advent and the coming of Jesus Christ onto the earth to give His life and to ransom us from sin. And it says so. But I want you to know that I kind of take this to heart with the show, that I believe that what I'm sharing is a righteous cause, or are righteous causes what I'm sharing. So it just kind of spoke to me this morning. And let them say continually, let the Lord be magnified. Now this is interesting. let us say continually, let God be magnified. And I know one of the biggest oppositions I hit out there from atheists and from people who do not believe in God is that the subject of worshiping God just angers them. And I know I chuckle there. It's sad that is what happens, but it angers them because when they think about worshiping God, I mean, their idea of God is, first of all, he doesn't exist. And if he does, he's the biggest jerk in the world because he allows so much suffering and things to go on and doesn't allow them to have the new Mercedes they've always wanted. So when the topic of praising God comes up, they just get all mean, nasty, and snarly, and snippy, and whatever. So, like I said, I understand it, but it just, you got to change your thinking. I once heard a preacher called Vaughn Gerald. This was 20 years ago. This guy was from England, Vaughn Gerald, and he talked about going out and working. And it says, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about having our minds renewed and that they need to be changed and washed with the water, which is the Word. And we also know from this show that the Word is Jesus Christ. Sorry, had a slug of coffee there. So anyway, he told a story about a guy that goes out with a bunch of friends, and they're digging a pit. And they get down in the pit, and they're digging, and they're digging, and they're digging. And as the day goes hotter and hotter, they start sweating. They start really, some odors coming off of them, armpit odors and those types of things. Kind of sounds kind of gross, and I hope I'm not insulting your delicate sensibilities. But anyway, he said, at some point, they started to realize that, man, the more they worked and worked, the dirtier they got and the smellier they got. And he said pretty soon they realized, hey, when we get done with this job, we're going to need to get cleaned up. So the guys got done with the job, and they all got cleaned up, and they smelled a whole lot better after they were done. And what he likened that to is people who go throughout their day and or start being before they start their day, they don't bathe or don't shower, or in this case, they don't read the Word of God, they don't pray, they don't take time to renew their minds and get rid of their stinking thinking instead of their stinking bodies. He related it to their stinking thinking. So when we get to have stinking thinking, we need to wash our minds with the water, which is the Word of God, and get our thinking straight. And so to those who hate the idea and the concept of worshiping God, I say to you, change your stinking thinking. Okay. That's kind of a cute way to put it, but it's true. Okay. Getting back to that verse in Psalm 35, verse 27, it says, let them shout for joy and be glad who favor my righteous cause, and let them say continually, let the Lord be magnified, who has pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. Now, his servant, capitalized H, is Jesus Christ. So that's just the verse for today for the show. And again, I'm just reaching out there to Pastor Gail. Hang in there, sister, and good things are coming for you ahead. And I know that to be a fact. There's no doubt in my mind. One thing I'd like to also point out with the Constitution, it says that we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And speaking about life, in John chapter 10, verse 10, it says, the thief cometh not, or comes not. I'm a big King James fan. You can probably tell I'm speaking the Old English. And again, some people get hostile when you do that. Get hostile. Go for it, man. I'm just going to be happy and joyful, and I hope you will be too. But anyway, the thief cometh not but to steal and to kill and to destroy. Steal, kill, and destroy. That's what he's all about. That's what he wants to do. And that's what the corrupt, stinking thinking of human thought produces. Stealing, killing, and destruction. And he said, Jesus said, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly.